What a nice, beautiful morning. Surely nothing will go.
Huh?
Hey kids, my name's Alex, but you're free to call me Dusty. Today I'll be tackling another bootleg kit from Star this time, the high-grade 1/144th Kampfer, which is quite a coincidence because I also bought another one of their products, spoilers by the way, for a future video I was planning to make. Anyhow, if you're interested on the origins of this mobile suit, it first appeared in the OVA series titled Mobile Suit Gundam 0080 War in the Pocket, where it was featured blitzing through an urban area of a space colony, taking multiple enemy mobile suits down until its confrontation with the titular mobile suit, the Gundam NT-1 Alex, managed to survive its onslaught and turned it into Swiss cheese after firing its arm-mounted Vulcan guns into its virtually non-existent armor. With our little overview out of the way, let's move on to unboxing the kit, shall we? As seen in this footage, the packaging is quite impressive for a knockoff, and the plastic quality looks rather good at a glance, though that might be subject to change. Though admittedly, I wasn't really expecting anything much when it came to packaging, so this was a welcome surprise to me. And just like every other decent plastic model kit, this knockoff came with an extra water slide decal, unlike Bandai, who sells them separately, which could speak to their incessant greed or their lack of confidence in their water slides quality, or both. Anyways, this instruction manual quality is surprisingly good and is most likely just a straight-up copy of the original. But what do I know? I don't own the original, so my statements are mostly anecdotal. And before we begin, I believe it's time to say goodbye to my first ever cutting mat. Bro was only featured in 2 videos and he's already getting replaced. You'll be remembered for your service.
Oh my god, there's another one.
Yeah, I finally decided to get a larger mat. I mean, just look at me tapping at it, like I'm doing those ASMR build videos. Like I get the appeal, but they seem to all use the same formulaic format with barely any changes that I couldn't tell which videos are theirs or not. Just don't mind the fact I'm doing the same thing here. Well, anyways, upon closer inspection, the mold quality is rather top-notch considering this bootleg has been sitting under my bed for almost a year now, which might be surprising for those Bandai purists, but for us peasants who had no reliable source of disposable income, this is as good as it gets. Moving on from that, I took a look at the instruction manual to see where I should begin. And so seeing that the manual outlined the torso first, that's where I'll start. Aside from the obvious callback from the previous build, I have a habit of reusing boxes and keeping them as storage containers, or as extra material for a potential future build if need be. Using my miniaturized guillotine, I separate the parts off their sprue like how immigration control habitually likes to separate people away from their friends and loved ones to meet some arbitrary quota. Let's just hope that the US government doesn't take offense and send a CIA agent to slime me out. Slanderous statements aside, this part of the build can be quite relaxing at times. That's until reality hits you like a deer running into a speeding car, and be reminded of the fact that even with good techniques, you will not achieve the same clean finish as that of someone using expensive, high-quality nippers those fairly well-off gunpla YouTubers use. I'm not saying it's impossible to do so, it's just that it'll take a bit more work to get there, like what I'm doing here right now, if you were paying attention to the video. After all that cleanup, I started assembling the whole piece that will soon form the torso of this bad boy, and none of the pieces have a problem sitting flush into each other yet. Well, not unless I mess them up first, I guess. Remember, kids, you shouldn't put too much force when assembling a kit, especially when it's made of soft, delicate plastic, because something will end up going wrong. Trust me, I have built a good repertoire of kits to know how easy it is to fuck one up. Oh, and remember what I said just a minute ago? Yeah, scratch that. The poly cap on this kit is very tight and required tremendous force to fit into the piece. But that's not exactly the fault of the manufacturer itself, but rather the result of the kit. The knockoff is fairly old and outdated by modern standards. But as long as you're careful enough, handling this kit's assembly ain't a problem. Emphasis on the word careful, because we got plenty more of this to go. With the upper torso now finished, we move on to the arms. Once again, my trusty garden scissors violently decapitates the opposition out of the individual parts and force them into compliance. After that, we remove the excess plastic still sticking out with a cheap single-bladed nipper I bought online, because as of right now, a God hand nipper would set my finances back greatly. Then comes the part where I sand down the nubs left over the surface with either a sanding stick or a glass file, if I was feeling fancy that particular moment. Then comes the assembly. Each part of the build is built upon sub-assemblies of each other that to this day never failed to impress me. Even the older kits have their own flair to them that you wouldn't see on any other kits of its time. Don't take it from me though, I'm kinda just talking out of my ass. Also, I won't be really talking much during this build segments because, frankly, I do not know what I'm doing most of the time. So unless something of interest happens, I'll be keeping quiet for most of their video. If you had experience building this kit, you would realize that I put the shoulder vents backwards. I only realized this error later on in the build and amended the mistake, though you wouldn't be seeing it until later on in the video. We're now done with the arms, so we'll proceed to the lower body sections, starting with the legs. I'm pretty sure by now you know what I'm doing and don't need me clarifying things for you, but if you're not, then I'll just give you a summary. I cut parts out of sprues, then sand and polish the rough edges. You better take note, because I'll be doing this 3 more times in the video. What's that, you ask? Don't worry, that's a surprise tool that will help us later. Assembling the legs was a rather unassuming task at first, but a few points in the build stick out like a sore thumb and gave me a few headaches when attempting to dismantle them for reasons beyond my understanding right now. I mean, I'm not really complaining about such trivialities. Such issues just come second nature for bootlegs such as this. And besides, there are far worse knockoffs than this, and those come with severely debilitating defects that it makes Rebel kits look competent by comparison. This part was especially problematic. Even though it's just 2 parts sandwiched together for the most part, the unusually tight fit made it quite the pain when it came to disassembling them. I mean, I appreciate it, but if you're in the mood for a custom build, you're gonna have to trim some connection points in there to avoid any and all possible plastic deformation. Anyway, with the legs done and dusted, this mold line running through the middle of the shoulder armor is quite distracting and is making me slightly uncomfortable. So I resolved the matter by creating a sprue glue to slather onto the gaps and crevices, erasing any signs of it even existing in the first place. But thinking about it right now, this was honestly a waste of time and only made sense in my head anyways. It's better to not dwell on it and just move on. Speaking of which, we are now on the head, the last part of the unit to be assembled and completed, not including the weapons, of course. I'm not sure what possessed me to apply the mono eye sticker here, but all I can say is that I wasn't on any suspicious substance when I was building this kit. It doesn't help that the camera refused to focus on the head, so the recording is incredibly blurry. Oh yeah, I almost forgot the hips too. What an embarrassing mistake to make, but an instructive one too. Hopefully none of you will ever make this same mistake again when you ever find yourselves writing scripts for someone else's YouTube video or TV show, right? I know I shouldn't be playing around with the legs right now, but I'm doing it to check its stability when doing standing poses, not because I got bored during this time. And finally, we're on to the weapon accessories. Good God, I'm finally at the last pace of the assembly. Hopefully nothing happens that might cause further delays on the project. That'll be quite an unfortunate thing if that ever happens. But that doesn't matter right now. As long as I can finish this thing in a reasonable time frame, it'll work itself out. Leaving the weapon assembly for last was a pretty obvious decision. If any one of you here has any experience building scale model boats that came with those little life rafts and tiny AA guns, those tend to be the most tedious parts to do when it came to building plastic models. But what does that have to do with what you're doing right now? You might ask. Well, you'll see in a hot minute. Now that I'm done with the guns, it's now time to tackle the chain mines, which is the most iconic Xeon weapon ever used by the Kampfer. And as cool as it is, it's also the most tedious to put together. I mean, look at it. It's just a bunch of small rounded pieces held together by a small wire, supported purely by friction and nothing else. With the completion of the chain mines, we move on to the rest of the weapon accessories. These are nothing special by themselves, but because they all come packaged into one kit, they become part of something larger. And before we move on to the next phase of the build, I first decided to deal with these unsightly gaps on these pieces. For that purpose, I decided to use this extra thin cement I just bought online, instead of repeating the same mistake I did 5 minutes ago. With the help of capillary action, my best friend from another mirror world allows the cement to breach even the tiniest of cracks, which then seals those same cracks and creates a tight bond within those same pieces. That can only be torn apart by a heartbroken man. Anyways, where was I at again? Oh yeah, that's right. I decided that now is a good time to sand down these pieces that I glued down to prepare them for the next phase of the build. With that done, we move on to painting, and for that I prepared this box right here to be my mini painting studio. I also recommend that you follow the message written into it, or I can't guarantee the safety of your backlog kits. Anyways, before I start actually applying paint to the model, I first prepare this concoction of gray primer so that paint adheres to the surface and cause minimal chipping. Though this process would have been easier if my airbrush decided to cooperate, because half the time, This shit just clogs up and gave me an ample amount of stress having to repeatedly declog the damn thing. Fortunately, this stopped being a problem after figuring out that I just need to push the airbrush needle just enough for it to be watertight and stop the paint from indiscriminately leaking out of the airbrush. I only figured this out after I tweak around it for a long while and wasting a non-negligible amount of paint on this thing already, but there's no point crying over spilled milk, as they say. So we move on from that. After priming, I used a darker shade of blue as a base color for the Kampfer, because the original color of the kit was rather muted and looked rather purplish when fluorescent light hits the kit's surface. Truthfully, this ain't my first attempt at doing a custom paint job, but this is my first time uploading a video of me doing one. Hopefully it comes out looking good because the paint I'm using on it costed me a bit of favor. And I'm not one to waste such good favors for other trivial stuff, like begging to be invited by a certain someone into a certain private island. The other reason why I settled for the color is that I was in my Ultrakill phase during the time I was building this. Coincidentally, this project was going on during the Holy Week, as it's called here. So I thought making a custom based on a certain GoPro was the way to go. With the base coat application done, I started cutting individual pieces of masking tape because airbrushing tends to be indiscriminate when it comes to paint application, unlike hand brushing where you have a bit more control when it comes to painting specific spots in a piece. But doing it this way allows for the paint to be applied evenly, whereas brush painting can create brush marks, as I like to call it, if the paint is not thinned properly. Though whatever your preferred method of painting is, there will always be things you'll have to, unfortunately, make concessions for. It's just like a romantic relationship. You might not always agree with each other, but as long as you're both willing to understand one another, you'll be able to get through many challenges.
말해줄래? 왜 워더링 하이츠를 떠나지 않고서는 견딜 수가 없었는지. 너의 바람대로 될 수 있어. 그렇다면 네가 할 수 있는 건 뭐가 있을까? 넌 저 모습을 보면 어떤 생각이 들어? 하지만
Hey, buddy! Oh, thank God. What happened there? Are you okay? You were just staring blankly into space, and then you just started rambling like you were talking to someone else. Never mind that. I'm so sorry if I caused you all any discomfort. I didn't mean any of that to happen. Anyways, all that matters is that y'all are fine and that I don't have to explain myself to the authorities. Well, enough of me yapping. Let's go back to painting. As you can see here, I'm currently painting some smaller details by hand, but in all honesty, I don't believe I'm doing that good of a job. But at this stage of the build, I can only really rely on my meager experience with the brush to pull this off. Once again, we mask off the other pieces to prepare them for painting. At this point, you might notice a slight change in the ambient lighting. And no, you're not going crazy. That's actually me setting up a flashlight into my current workspace because I was having a hard time seeing things in the box due to a lack of ambient light, which resulted in this terrible video recording scene here. With that done, let's just... Yeah, it seems the masking didn't help here in this specific instance. Honestly though, it all boils down to a skill issue on my part, and that I should have been more rigorous when it came to masking. Thankfully, these ones didn't suffer from the same issue, saving what was left of my dwindling sanity at this point. Oh well, might as well do a few touch-ups and be done with this before it eventually gets out of hand. Speaking of touch-ups, you might wonder when and how I painted the weapons before doing it by hand. The reality is that I cut a lot of bad footage out of the video, especially those that are under the influence of bad lighting, because triggering an epileptic seizure is the last thing I ever want to deal with. Whatever, I'm just thankful that I even got something to show for all my hard work. At least it went to something productive compared to doom scrolling on the internet. You know what? Let's just move on from that whole fiasco. And so we begin by laying down every parts and pieces to prepare them for a very special procedure. Here's the kit fully assembled. We better appreciate it now because it wouldn't stay this way forever. Because that's when I pull up with the gloss lacquer coat to hit this kit with. The change in scenery might have surprised you, but this was a necessary measure I need to do because my landlord simply cannot handle the smell of lacquer paints, and I can understand to some degree. It might not sound that serious coming from me, but the last thing you want to happen to you is to get serious health complications when handling these types of chemicals in your workspace. You know what they say, better safe than sorry. Since we're finished with the clear coat application, this is when we start panel lining the details on the kit. I use this pen for easier application because I don't have those fancy panel liner brush from those highly sought after brands of panel liner ink. Just looking at their prices was already quite intimidating, and I'm really trying to avoid making expensive purchases as much as possible due to my fairly tight budget, though that's simply one issue I'll have to resolve for myself. Anyways, doing panel lining is not much more difficult than any other activities in this hobby. In fact, you only really need this if you want your kit to be a bit more eye-catching than your usual straight-built kits. Just make sure you buy a panel liner that's within your budget range. Since we're finished with making such messy panel lines, we clean them up, with lighter fluid of course, because I'm just that cheap of a person. Works just as well too. It's a bit of a model kit hack if we're being honest here, but if you're familiar with your chemistry lessons, you could even substitute your own Tamiya cement with their airbrush cleaner, because they share the same chemical composition, just in different ratios. But I know y'all are here to see me build a toy robot, not listen to my science lectures, so we'll continue on from here. Diving in directly into the sticker and decals, a pretty crucial part when you want to make your kids stand out a bit more. Though not a necessity if you just want the finished product itself, still, I would argue that adding a few details into your kit can elevate the building experience. After that, I thought it'll be a good idea to do weathering using oil paints, but with my lack of knowledge and experience, it went as well as one might expect from a beginner. I doubt it even did anything to the kit aside from me making a mess of my surrounding and wasted such perfectly good paint because of my hopeful naivety. Just looking at the footage here just feels like I'm watching a toddler playing with crayons. So I once again laid out all the parts of this model kit to then assemble them all over again. Why I'm showing you this now instead of earlier is something I wondered for myself too, for the answer to that question still eludes me. After completing the assembly, I then once again brought it outside to blast it with this matte top coat, sealing all my hard work in a protective layer of clear lacquer paint. And with all that finished, we finally move on to the review. To be honest, I didn't really know how to structure these for the first two videos, but after watching a few gunpla reviews, I finally got an idea on how I should approach this segment from today onwards. So let's just get this out of the way first. I thoroughly enjoyed building this gunpla model, that I assure you, but its numerous issues might detract you from said enjoyment. So to give you a good idea, I decided to make a bullet point for all its pros and cons. So let's start with the cons. First of all, its tolerances are pretty inconsistent. Some parts fit are just right, while others can be way too tight. This issue is most prevalent in the polycaps and the thighs. It's to the point where it felt like the polycaps would explode if I pushed it too hard. The other problem I have with this kit is the rather weak knee joints, as demonstrated in the video. It's a bit loose, and so a slight breeze is enough to topple it over. This also means it has a hard time maintaining leg poses in an action stand over time, which also coincides with its posability. I'm not saying it's terrible. I mean, you could put it in some silly pose and it would hold up well enough, but it's not really its strong suit. It doesn't help that its articulation is rather limited in certain parts. Now for the pros, since it's a Chinese bootleg, it comes with a cheap price tag, and this is good for a knockoff based on an early 2000s high-grade kit, which is already showing its age. The only reason you would buy the original is if you wanted to brag about owning one, but I don't really see any point in doing that anyways. There's also the plethora of weapon accessories it comes with, which adds to its value. Without them, the Kampfer would look rather bare since the weapons are practically part of its identity as a mobile suit, and it's basically the reason you would want this in the first place. So all in all, not bad for a knockoff of an old kit, which is already a noteworthy praise. Nothing about it is super terrible, and is definitely manageable if you're used to Chinese bootleg and third-party kits. The problems I listed are pretty worrying for beginners, but veterans should have no qualms with them, as they're pretty used to tackling such challenges. Hell, even the articulation was decent, all things considered. A good substitute if you don't feel like buying the original old HGs in their original Bandai pricing, which is cheap compared to other manufacturers, but adds up the more you buy them, so there's that. So I'll give it a score of 7 grilled patties out of 10 light stick skewer, an average score for an average model kit. And before I forgot about it, we can't end this video without making a size comparison between each individual kit, so let's admire this little mech collection I have here. And with that, the video's finally reached its conclusion, and it only took like a broken neck joint in my editing software crashing multiple times and messing up my work progress to get here. I'm just thankful it's over now and can move on to other more prospective projects in my backlog. And for the people who watched till the end, you have both my condolences and gratitude to watch this sloppily put together video. But that's all I have for today. Adios.